Well, it's the beginning of the school year, and a lot of parents are really nervous about their child's safety. I mean, what if there's a school shooting?
What if? How do you know if your child will be safe? Well, there is a new law in Pennsylvania that places armed security guards at schools in the state.
And this is Chick2Chick.
All right, we just really started a new school year recently, and there are some changes that are going on at schools in Pennsylvania. A big change has to do with cell phones. Kids, they got to turn their cell phones in at the start of the day. The schools are locking them up. Kids can't have them. I personally think that is a good thing. I think that it was probably causing a lot of problems with the teachers, the distractions going on, and the texting back and forth and the bullying and whatnot. Put those phones away. Focus on the books. Now, what is your daughter experience?
Well, she's in her senior year, and she was not as thrilled.
I'm sure.
As the parents are. But I think she also understood it. For her, it was just sometimes kids need a little bit of music to drown things out. That's one thing that she, was going to miss. But all in all, I think she appreciates it because there's some bad actors, and there's some kids that they just have no business having their phone in their hand during a school day. And that's really important, I think, also for safety measures. But the big thing that we're also going to talk about today is guns in schools, and that's specifically with armed security guards. So today we have Pennsylvania Senator Mike Reagan, and he is here to talk about a bill that was passed. Can you tell us, Senator, about this bill? Because I also know that you've been working on this for a really long time.
Yeah, 12 years. Yeah. Of course, thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate being with you. 12 years. It started when I had a group of fourth graders here. I'd just been elected to the House of Representatives, and I had a group of fourth graders in the Capitol, and I hadn't been sworn in yet. I was elected but not sworn in, so I got to spend an inordinate amount of time with these kids. And then as I high-fived them as they got on their bus to go back to school, I jumped in my car to go on to something else, turned on the radio, and I heard about the Sandy Hook thing, and just the proximity of that really it shook me up a little bit. It had a profound effect on me. And I knew that coming from being a U.S. Marshal for 23 years and being in charge of securing federal courthouses, I knew I had the knowledge and wherewithal to develop a bill. So I did. And that was 12 years ago. And we just passed it in July. So we're very thankful that it finally got done, but it took a long time.
So what specifically does this law say pertaining to armed security guards and school districts across Pennsylvania? What's going to change, and what does this mean?
Well, in Pennsylvania, it's a local control state, and they want to let school districts decide for themselves what they can and can't do. My contention all along has been, you're having school board members and, superintendents make these important decisions about the kids' security, and they have absolutely no training or background in it. So, is that fair to our kids? And, we see things happening across the country in schools. There's been 200 kids killed in schools just in Sandy Hook. So we know it's a problem, and we were seeing decisions being made and money being spent on things that maybe weren't in the proper, protocols.
So does it provide funding for an armed security guard at every school, or just one armed security guard per school district? How does that work?
Yeah, sorry, I danced around that, but they provide $50,000 in funding to a school to hire a armed security guard, in one per district. Now, my original bill said one per school. That was a tough pill for many legislators to swallow. So we eventually negotiated down to what it is now. We still think this is an important move forward. In Pennsylvania, traditionally, no matter what the topic is, it's an incremental state. We do things a little bite at a time. You saw it with wine and grocery stores, and it's like we don't do anything in one fell swoop. We do it a little bit at a time. But this is a huge step forward, I think. And I think that what we'll find in the future is that schools will like having this person there. I mean, we know a lot of things. I mean, I've immersed myself in this over the last decade. And, we've consulted with really experienced guys from all over the world. And one thing we know for sure is kids can't learn if they're scared, number one. And we know that these guys, when they're in schools and you have the right person doing the job, kids trust them. They confide in them. They provide intelligence. It's a huge intelligence gathering method. And it's successful pretty much everywhere you go and everyone you talk to. So I know that I'm hopeful that schools wrap their heads around it and increase the number. So eventually we'll get to the point where they have one in every school. That's the ultimate goal. Hopefully we can legislate it at some point.
So will the kids or the parents know what, which school the guard is in? Is that known to the public?
One of the things we're able to get past in a previous session was to allow schools to discuss their safety and security policies in executive session. In the past, it was not allowed. They had to discuss it in public. So now they can discuss it privately. So, we would hope that schools would employ strategies where, if they only have one guard for, let's say, 10 schools, that no one would know where that guard was during the school day, except for the kids, obviously, and the teachers who saw him in there. And you can do things like park the police car at one school and actually be at another. So it's kind of a force multiplier where you can at least throw someone off who doesn't want to be confronted by an armed officer, and may dissuade him from doing it ultimately at all.
It's not an intimidation factor to scare these kids. Is that correct?
No, it's not. And, quite frankly, Flora, we have not heard of that effect really taking place anywhere in Pennsylvania or around the country that we've done our research on. Is like kids typically like this person. They trust them. They feel safer with them there. And there's a relationship. I don't think every cop is designed to be a school resource officer. Some are better with kids than others. But there is a trust level that I think exists, and that lends to the intelligence gathering part of it that I mentioned earlier.
What would you say to the parent who says, hey, you know what? I don't want this. I don't want guns in my house. I don't want guns at school. I don't want guns near my children. What's your response to that?
Well, my response is that I guess by that rationale, we would take guns away from police officers and take guns away from, air marshals and take guns away from everyone who protect us. There's an old adage, and it's a kind of a cliche, but it's true, is that the only way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. And, I saw time and time again, any incidents that took place in a federal courthouse around the country, a security breach, is the gunfight took place in the doorway. There was someone there right away to stop it before it got too far. And we talk about it in terms of school safety and security, the initial responder. When these tragedies happen, and more times than not, it's over before the first responders even get there. There's the carnage and the suicide. We want guys on the scene who are the initial responders who can confront the gunman before he can do the damage. And that if you talk to any cop or any security expert or anybody who has any knowledge about this, they will agree with that. It's what we were confronting in the past was the uneducated school board member, the uneducated, superintendent who has no background in it. They take that, I don't want any guns in school. Okay, well, and we had legislators saying that too. But we do have guns in our guards here that protect you, right? Are you making any moves to get rid of those guns? No, of course not, because they're going to protect you. We make kids go to school. We make them go. Let's protect them while they're there.
Yeah. Another thing while they're there is those doggone cell phones. You laugh because we all know we grew up without them. We went to school. We managed just fine.
Thank goodness.
Can you imagine?
No,
yeah.
I can't. So what's the reason behind the cell phone? I figured it. I understand it, but what's the rationale with it, with the cell phones being put in bags, put away? I know you said you had a little conflict with that idea, but, you went forward with it anyway. Why?
Well, because I care. I have 4 kids, and they're all, except for one, is still in. Chase just went to college; he's a freshman. But I used to drive up as a U.S. Marshal, drive up and drop my kids off at school, and see a volunteer mom at the glass door letting kids in and out, and say a prayer that nothing would happen because all would have taken was someone who's motivated to do something horrible, and it would have been easy to do it. And, that's something that I hope that, this is common sense. And you're always going to, no matter what it is. I mean, you could be, propose something that you would think everyone would love. And there's going to be people who object to it. They took a poll, William and Mary, Franklin Marshall did a poll not too long ago, maybe less than a year ago, about school safety and security, how people felt about it. And it was overwhelming. It was 74%, I think, of Pennsylvanians, no matter what party, thought that they should have security guards in schools. So I think the number of people who object to it is a shrinking minority. And my hope is that, this will be a deterrent more than anything else. And God forbid there be something happen in one of the schools and this have to be proven. But still, even with a guard, if there was a guard in every school, if you have a motivated shooter, it's difficult to stop it. And these are dangerous times, the days of the propped open door and the coming and going and, the free and easy open campus things, those days are gone. They're over. And people need to wrap their head around that. It's a different world we're living in, and we should take the proper steps. And this is me, as someone who is a security expert, number one, and number two, someone who cares, taking steps to protect them.
So what about the whole cell phone ban, though? Do you like that idea? You think that's a good thing? Not so good?
The cell phone ban thing, I think, is a good idea. I mean, I like the fact that the kids have, contact. I think it was an issue in Uvalde. And kids were communicating with the police as to telling them where the shooter was. I mean, I think there was some confusion as to if the shooter in Uvalde was in a room barricaded by himself or if he had students in there. And the students were the ones who actually told the police that he had students in there. So taking kids' cell phones away from them is, I think from a learning perspective or from being distracted perspective is a smart move. Just like 5% of me doesn't love the school security aspect of that, but I think there's a greater good there in doing it.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, hopefully that there will be other measures in place. Kids can get to their phones quick. But at the end of the day, the distraction in education is one of the big things that they're facing. Senator, thank you so much. I know you worked really, really hard, not just over this for the years, but just in general, what you've done for the state of Pennsylvania. And we know that you are retiring. So we wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. So great to be with you guys.
Congratulations and enjoy retirement.
Yeah.
Thanks, I will.
Thanks, Senator.
Thank you very much.
So two big things again. No cell phones in schools. And again, there are going to be armed security guards in school districts.
Right.
You're not going to know where they are. You don't know necessarily which school.
Right.
But it is, at the end of the day, meant to protect our kids. And isn't that what we all want?
That's right.
We want our kids to be safe.
It's the step in the safety direction. So I appreciate it with one just last year to go. And we appreciate you being with us today. So do us a favor, head over to our YouTube channel, like and subscribe until we're back to chirp about another topic.